Thanks for listening to Fluff and Crunch, where we talk about the connection and sometimes disconnect between system, setting, and story in tabletop RPGs.
Computer. All right. Right on. We are recording. And you've got your Steam runner, and I've got the whole fleet.
You've got
The
so
history
much
fleet going on behind me. Look at that.
I love that weird thing where it's just a big sphere at the front of it. It's so strange.
Yeah. That was like they needed an extra ship, and they're just like, hey, intern, make up a ship for us. I think perhaps that was the call. How are you? You said you were
I'm
well
good.
earlier, but now they're recording and had to prove it, so you had to say it again.
Yep, fine, all good. I take it you haven't done any gaming since it's.
I have not.
days.
I have not. I have, however, written a lot.
Really?
And assembled a lot. Yes, Eris is now, the main file is 186 pages. And I've got about a couple more pages of world background to add to that. That'll push it up over 190. And then I've got the adventure to write, which is probably going to be 20 some pages. And then I've got about 20 pages worth of printable reference material. So it's going to be somewhere around 230, something like that.
So a lot.
It's bonkers. It really is. It is bonkers. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing. And you've obviously done no gaming because it's only been a few days.
Yes.
But we're here to talk about something. Wait, look at that. It cloaked and I cloaked. It's so strange how this blurring thing works. There you go. Like once it goes off the profile of a human being.
I know. I don't know if my hand works, but yeah. Yeah. Star Trek Adventure. I can't even say it. Utopia, Planitia.
Planitia.
There we go. Starfleet Source Book.
Starfleet Source Book. Basically, the ship construction manual for the 21st century.
Yes, which is ironic because the ship construction rules, we'll get to that, but
yes,
aren't quite as big as I was expecting.
Yes. Well, this is our review of this, which unfortunately neither of us are playing Star Trek Adventures games. When was the last time you played STA?
Oh my goodness! I mean, when did Picard come out? The first series. It was pre-COVID. I was pre-COVID when we last played because we started playing, and then I think COVID happened, and that kind of ended our campaign. And then we never went back because there was always something else we were going to be playing.
Yeah.
And then I think the odd time might have been that we would have gone back is sort of when Picards were on, but then I don't think Scott watches it, and so yeah.
Yeah, we stopped our season ended in like December, and we've been playing this 5e thing since. So I'm not actively playing it either, but I have the book. You have the book, and yeah, we're going to talk about it today. Where do you want to start?
I mean, we might as well go through it because also I think actually going through it kind of ramps up through the good stuff.
Yeah,
and I know there's some games. Right, so I'll just phrase it. There's a short games mastering section at the end. I'm basically just not going to talk about that. I don't know what there's stuff in there. It's probably reasonable stuff. There's a bunch, there's 10 pages of mission briefs, and mission briefs are good, and there's some optional rules. But to me, that's not really the focus of the book. The other chunks of like large chunks of stuff. So there is some games mastering stuff in there. But if we go through the rest of the book, it kind of goes through in use of and coolness and exciting stuff.
Yes,
which is not what I expected.
Something I'll point out before we get into it, so I have that copy. If you look inside the inside cover, you have a whole bunch of ships.
I love that.
Assumingly to scale. And then what's nice is within inside the back cover, you have a bunch of other ships, which
that's why I'm not sure because I
not to scale.
I thought they were to scale because most of them look like they're to scale.
There's no way they're to scale because the Steam Runner is huge,
but the Steam Runner looks like it's
refit is smaller than the Intrepid. So I don't. And then the weird thing is they've got the Oberth and the Daedalus and the Defiant, and those seem to be to scale.
Yeah.
So but the Miranda and the Constitution refit are about the same size, but the Intrepid and the Steam Runner are not supposed to be bigger than that.
It's the Steam Runner that's definitely wrong, because the Steam, we'll see it later. The Steam Runner is meant to be like, the scale of the Steam Runner is a lot smaller than a lot of these other ships. So the Steam Runner is definitely wrong, but then everything else looks right.
Yeah, we don't.
It's nice,
but instead
it's
of
nice
being,
to see them.
Instead of being nitpicky, I'll just point out that the art's neat.
Yes.
So inside the covers, the art is neat.
When I saw that, I was like, ooh, I like this. I do have to, because I'm looking at the PDF. I don't have the book. Has it got white background or black?
Yes, it does. Throughout, it is white background. And if you haven't looked at this book, but you have looked at the Discovery campaign guide, it's the same type of color scheme. There are a couple of places where some of their call it like their focus fonts, like they'll do some like pull out examples in this green italicized font, which I'm not hip on the green. It's a little light, but otherwise this is much easier to read than any of the original run of the Quadrant or the Division or the original rule book. So this is a white background here. Actually, wait, let me see if I can get this to appear. There we go. White background, easy to read.
It's one of these things that I have to, the black background looks a lot nicer, particularly pictures on top of the black background.
Sure, it looks cool.
It looks cool, but it's terrible to read. Particularly
terrible to read.
It's not good to read, and
it
marks
I
really
like
badly.
my books to stay in good visual shape, and so all the iridescent soap bubble colors from finger oil, I'm not a fan of. So we dig that. How about what's in the book?
The foreword was good. A lot of the time I skipped the forewords, but the fact that the foreword was written by a guy from Star Trek Online, who was kind of like, gave some background, but then said, but then we took some of our ships from Star Trek Online and made the point that this book, it covers a much bigger, it covers all the time period. You can go right back to the Enterprise if you really want to, and it goes ahead into like Star Trek Online, into the the 2400s. So that I really liked, because I think when I was playing Star Trek, I had just started playing Star Trek Online, mostly because it was a really easy way of making characters. Like, you went into the Star Trek Online character creator, even if you didn't play the game, and just made characters in that. And then it had lots of new ships. So that was really cool. And so I like the fact they've gone even to the ships as far as that for inspiration.
What's nice is that it really does cover, and this is in all aspects of the book. It addresses from Enterprise through Star Trek Online, like Picard-ish. It covers that entire time period for every aspect of the book. So that means in the different sections of the book, like history of Starfleet and Starfleet operations and ship construction, and then the large section of the book that is full of ship stats, all of those sections, you'll find that chronological representation, which is cool, because I mean, we've all got different eras that we like, and so that's nice to not pigeonhole people or assume, well, no one's going to play in that area, so they just leave it out or put it in.
I thought I saw a little table somewhere which kind of went through sort of which TV programs are
that's on page 7 on essential viewing. I think
I thought there was something else. I think I'm just thinking of the page before where it just says the different stuff in roughly what time period it is, but and that's it. But the thing. Now
I'm looking at page 7 on the. Are you looking at page 7 of the?
I was looking at the page before. The essential viewing is really cool. It actually has. So essentially, what it has here is for every single TV series and some of the films, it names which films or which episodes a particular series have a lot of Starship stuff in, and it does even go into the animated series and Lower Decks. So I really like that. I mean, a load of these, I see the episodes and I think like, I don't know what that episode is.
It's interesting though, looking through, I recognize a number of these, and thinking, like, for example, it recommends from the, and what you're saying is that these are episodes that they believe really put the ship and ship stuff front and center. And for example, from the original series, they have Balance of Terror, which was the first episode rather, in which the Romulans show up. And that's like a submarine fight is really what that episode is. So that's really a focus on the ship. The Ultimate Computer, also a focus on ships, like war games with AI and people getting killed because computers lose their stuff. The Next Generation episode with the Binars, when they try to download themselves, their civilization or whatever, their main brain into the Enterprise's computer. All of these are great examples of episodes that focus on the ship or ship operations as the center of the story. So I like that. That's a great way to connect.
Yeah, I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm convinced that there's episodes for Next Gen which should be on there, and Deep Space Nine which aren't. But yeah,
well, you know,
that's not really the point. That's just opinions.
Yeah.
But the fact that they've done that, I was like, that's really good, and they've covered everything. There isn't like they haven't gone, oh, we don't like Discovery like you would, and not put it on there, or Voyager for me.
Right. And obviously, there's no Strange New Worlds on this because of when this was written and licensing. I am a big fan of Chapter 1.
Starfleet's Legacy. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it kind of goes through and gives you a background, like again, going really, really back early on. It's kind of written from like this history thing. So it's written from like, right, we're in 2410. Here's some history. And it's nice. It's not stuff you need to keep going back to. Oh, look, there's a picture of Scott Bakula. Why? Just anyway, stunt casting.
I don't know. Here's the thing that I like about this. You're right. It is presented as if it is like a 30,000-foot view history text. The nice thing about it is that it starts before the Federation, United Earth Space Probe Agency, which was mentioned in the original series. It goes to star travel before the Federation, and then it goes up through. So in other words, like when I looked in this, the handy thing for me about it is that I only got through about the first season and a half of Enterprise. I just couldn't stomach it.
That's more than I did.
I couldn't stomach it. And I've watched like 4 or 5 episodes of Discovery first season, and I can't stomach it. So what's nice about this is that if you are either coming to Star Trek newish, or there are holes, there are gaps in your viewing of things, this fills it in. This actually provides the broad brushstrokes of the history and the development of Starfleet as an organization, and obviously then that's tied very closely to star travel, which is tied very closely to the ships. So I like the fact that they did this. The art in it is really nice. The layout is nice, and there's lots of good information. There is one reused picture. I'm looking at a picture of an Oberth class, and that picture comes from the beginner box adventure, but that's beside the point. Other than that, the art, as far as I can tell, is it's almost all new. There are a couple of reused pictures, but so it takes it up through Visions for the 25th Century.
And at the end of that, we get a little bit of sort of like new technology, although it has detachable hulls on there. And I'm like, well, you had those at the end of the last century. That's not new, but transwarp drives and quantum and transphasic torpedoes, which sound bad. Where's the one? There's a thing in here. It basically says it's so dangerous we don't want anyone to have it. Oh, that's the transphasic torpedoes. The use is still highly restricted by the Federation for fear of this technology falling into the wrong hands. I was like, I like that. So then we have chapter 2, which is Starfleet operations. This one's all right.
Yeah.
One thing I did like, there's a double page spread on page 26 and 27 where they have a lot of the bridge designs. That's cool, showing like the different bridges. I'm an active fan. You can find this stuff although it's not in a lot of these books. I remember when we decided we were going to use a steam runner, we just went online and found that someone had the entire deck plans of it. There is just, you can find this stuff online relatively easy because there's just Star Trek fans out there who just, if someone hasn't done it, they just do it themselves. But I did really like the fact they have this sort of bridge design to show the different bridges from like a top-down view, but then also there's some sort of 3D pictures of them. Although the Intrepid class shouldn't be on there. I mean,
I'm a long-term fan. I mean, I get nerdy about this stuff, and when I've run original series stuff, I break out my ancient deck plans, Constitution class deck plans, and Klingon D7 deck plans and stuff like that. It's just neat. I really like that stuff. That gets me going. And so you can find this stuff online, but it's neat to, as you're reading through this, and overall I agree. The content in this Life in Starfleet it's a lot of just like this is what it's like. What's your duty schedule like? Like, I don't care. It ideas about downtime and Star Trek, ship procedures and stuff is, I guess, if you're feeling interested in the story behind how like administratively a ship would function, you go ahead and read this. The useful thing I find beyond those bridge maps is there are a bunch of tables like random holodeck story starters.
Yeah, they were cool.
I do find, though, on page 31 has the random game table for downtime on a ship, like poker, Cottiscot, shuffleboard, go. There's no Dungeons and Dragons. Of course, the people are just on the holodeck for that. But, random martial arts, which I'm not really sure if, did you really need to have a D20 based table to roll and come up with, Hapkido?
Yeah, it's a bit weird, but I think it's one of those.
Seems like a filler thing.
It does seem like a bit like a filler thing, but it's nice to have an idea of what the downtime is.
Yeah.
I just want to think that a lot of the thing I'm actually more familiar with right now is the Orville rather than Star Trek, because I've just watched the newest series of the Orville, and the Orville does just feel like Star Trek. It's not even, it doesn't even hide it. It's just straight up doing Star Trek. But it's the bit where there's a character kind of, well, do you have sort of TV and films? No, we have holodeck. And you think, well, a lot of the holodeck stuff you seem to do is going back and doing sort of films and books from sort of the 20th and 21st century. At what point did people just stop making new entertainment? Surely it's still going on. People must still be writing books and films and TV. Well, they kind of imply that they don't.
There are episodes in which they'll talk about like hollow novels, where it's like a choose your own adventure that you take part in. So I don't know, but it is nice to have those kinds of things for ideas. I kind of feel like this chapter is more of interest if you are feeling you're in a Star Trek-y mood and you want to read some Star Trek stories. You read this and you kind of let your imagination drift. I do like they have on pages 34, they talk about heading, like, something, mark something. What does that mean in Star Trek-y? So they have that.
I've never seen that explained anywhere else. So that is good.
Whether it's true or not, that's good. I like.
It didn't even cross my mind that it wasn't. I just assumed that was correct.
Just go, okay, that's fine. They also have nice pullouts about why maps and speed and distance never seem to line up, and they explicitly admit that, folks, it's speed of plot. And distance of plot. So
there is actually a whole box out, isn't there?
Yeah, I actually think the box outs in this chapter are more immediately useful to the GM than the fluff. So yeah,
I think the maps thing is a good point, but I think it's a thing that most sci-fi games struggle with when you have to say, look, here's the problem. We're trying to use a 2D map to represent 3D space. Now, although we can kind of go, oh, the universe is expanded on a 2D plane. You think, no, it's not. That doesn't make any sense. So you are at the end of the day using a 2D map to show a 3D space. You're always gonna have problems.
Yeah.
And then, in the TV series and so on, they didn't really care about distances. Well, they don't in Star Wars either. It's the same thing. So you can have a map, but it's how long does it take to get from A to B? Speed of plot is absolutely spot on.
So I like the fact that they are clearly putting this up as this is story driven. It's not some kind of an attempt to simulate everything like Traveler does.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's chapter 2 has got it's got information about like precious resources and maybe some plot ideas attached to those. I think that's overall it's pretty good. I think you'll find story seeds and ideas for things to throw at character or players from that chapter primarily.
Yeah, there's useful stuff in here that you might never ever use, but it's the kind of stuff you think, oh, I remember seeing a thing somewhere about mining, and I want an episode where there's some dudes doing some mining of something. So and that's how, and then we got a whole section on sort of salvage and retrieval. Again, same thing. This is the kind of stuff I quite like, because that's the kind of stuff which starts taking us more towards the sort of what we saw in the first series, Picard anyway, where we kind of get this idea that, well, the entire galaxy isn't the Federation. And yes, in the Federation, when there's post-scarcity economy, we don't have money. But outside that, there's people working for a living. And again, like the it says got a reference from Quark there. So the Ferengi don't work in a post-scarcity economy. They very much have a massive capitalist society. So you know, it's nice when we start seeing more of the kind of, oh, it's not all just that, yeah, everyone can have everything they want and it's all, you know, sunshine and rainbows. I like when we start more moving outside of the Federation and getting a bit more of a what the rest of the galaxy is like, because it's, you know, it's more well realistic.
So I see sitting, like when I read through that, it was in part just a fiction reading exercise from me that as I was reading, I got some ideas from. So that's decent. Now the next chapter.
This is the bit that I was like, this is going to be the best bit of the book. This is the bit that I would, you know, I want the book for.
Right.
How to make your own ships. And there's two sides. This one is actually it does exactly what you need to do, but I don't think it's as well as explained as it could be.
No.
And it was nowhere near as long as I was expecting.
No.
Now, actually, it's classic Modiphius. There are examples in here, but they're very short examples.
Yeah, it's funny.
They don't need a lot. Everything they need in here is a lot long, but I'll give you the classic example of where I got confused right at the start. So that the first couple of things are kind of just, oh, here's what I was talking about, the errors of play thing. It's here.
Yeah.
Page 53, there we go. So we've got the different errors of play and where all different stuff. I knew I'd seen it somewhere. So you kind of got this thing about, you know, what error are we playing in? There's a thing somewhere, was there a thing about, is our ship sentient? Oh yeah, is our ship sentient? And I was like, well, that seems like a recipe for disaster, but okay. So they got stuff about unique ships backstories. There's a lot of initial stuff about just thought exercises, bringing your ship to life. Okay, that, you know, it's cool. But then when we get into the actual making the ship,
the mechanics of it.
Yeah, we have this thing called choosing scale. Fair enough. You choose a year because the year determines system points, which hasn't really explained what system points are.
Well, no, system points are what you divide up between the 6 ships systems, which are like the ship's attribute, the ship's stats, the attributes.
This is the bad bit. It doesn't actually say that anywhere.
Well, and what happens is you read through 2 pages, you move to the 3rd page where it tells you to allocate them, and then you realize, oh wait, system points are for these things. So the way it works is that you pick a year in which the ship first came into service, that class of ship, and you get a certain number of points. And the idea, and I had to kind of get my head around this because it wasn't explicit, is that this enables you to build a system or build a ship from the same different sets of options, but takes into account that an older ship is not going to have as much sexy technology in it as a new one, and therefore you have fewer points, so you just can't buy as much stuff, and you can't put the system. So system points is the 6 ship attributes, not the departments, which stand in for disciplines, but attributes. But it doesn't say that.
No, that was where I got lost because I haven't looked at the ship, like the ship, you know, the ship character sheet, because the ship
and they should have that.
And so I'd forgotten. And so it kept going about system points. And I thought system points was going to let me buy everything.
Yeah, that's what I thought at first too.
And then I start reading assign, and it says assign system points. And that's what it says. It just says you sign them. And I'm like, I don't understand what this means. And it was not till, the thing is, I was reading this on a tablet. So I'm reading a page at a time. So the table, okay. And then I'm reading that. And then it's on the next page. It then says, but even then it does it quickly because it basically goes, blah, blah, 50 system points, 8 points in communication, the computers, 9 in engine sensor structure and 7 in weapons. But I'd missed that because this example is at the top of the page.
Yep.
So I'd kind of read the section, gone on to the next couple of sections. I go, no, what?
No, you know what? Honestly, it's the way I see this is that, Modiphius, for whatever reason, like it doesn't seem like there are people. It doesn't seem like they have editors who approach this who already don't fully know how it all works. Like you need to bring in your idiot cousin and be like, hey, idiot cousin who likes games, read this. Does it make sense? You know,
because I genuinely looked, I was like, I don't understand system points. And then eventually I found that thing. I was like, oh, right, there's 6 systems and the 6 systems are like the attributes of the ship. That's what my system, okay. And then it made sense. But it's like, you know, the fact that it took me quite a while to work it out. And then we have department points, which is essentially your disciplines.
Correct.
Now you don't get a lot of points here. And initially I was like, ooh, you get very few points. Now the reason you don't get a lot of points is because later on you pick a mission profile.
Right. And it could have
like
said that.
Class. Yeah, but it doesn't say that. So you're just like, what?
You know what's useful? I've found for a multi-step process, And at each step, so you have this process that's made up of multiple steps, and each step is itself made up of some, maybe not many like sub steps, but it has like there's a couple of things you do at each step. It's really useful on the front end before just jumping into step 1, step 2, step 3, giving a breezy overview about this is how the whole process works. Now go into it. And they never do that. I've heard this referred to as the curse of knowledge. You get too many people around a table who already know it so well that they forget that other people don't, and then they fail to communicate it clearly. So it's not that it's figure outable, but it's it's just
this was the thing about we got 6 pages on like the background of your ship. And then the actual ship creation rules, we got 5.
Yeah.
Now, it wouldn't have killed them to either have a page at the start where they kind of go through it all step by step in a nice, clear table or flow chart, or to do another page at the end where they give us the character sheet of the ship they've made, or do another example.
Yeah, that's surprising because oftentimes, like that's a norm. You have the notional character is created through the character creation process, and then you have a picture of their character sheet at the end, and that would have been really easy, but they didn't do it.
Because we do get examples. You know, we've criticized Modifius a lot for no examples. We do get examples here, but the examples kind of don't really go anywhere, and the things aren't explained. Now, I think actually once you've read the whole thing, you go, oh, actually, this is really straightforward. And there's a reason that we'll come to later on, while it actually then seems super easy. But my first read through this, I was just like, I'm so confused.
Yeah.
What have I missed? And it was like, well, you haven't really missed anything. It's just it could be.
You got a couple of pages on ships, and then you have a couple of pages on small craft with the differences if you want to create like runabouts and stuff like that. I really love the fact that they included information on the unique dimensions of creating a space station.
Yeah,
which is nice.
There's an idea.
Yeah, and then after that, it goes into all the space frame mission profiles, and they've added some beyond what's in the other books. So you've got a big selection, and that's where most of your department points come from, because that's what specializes the ship to be espionage or intelligence or crisis and emergency management.
Well, obviously, I went straight to battle cruiser and warship because that's what
it's funny. I looked at entertainment/pleasure ship. I'm like,
oh yeah,
okay.
Okay, I cannot imagine there being a Federation pleasure ship. That's just no. That sounds like a Ferengi ship straight up.
And then there's station components and on from there. So yeah, once you read, and then weapons is a separate section. The hard thing is there's just a lot of information. If you're going to build a ship or a station, there are a lot of different things that go into it. And there's no clean way to just squeeze it all into one place. I still think it would have been better to have, like I said, that breezy overview of like, hey, this is the whole process from beginning to end. Now walk through each step in detail.
Because kind of what we get is the kind of the creating Starship things feels like an overview. And then, so for parts for like the mission profile, the talents, the weapons do have then their own sections later on. But the initial stuff doesn't. So it kind of feels like, we could have done with a box out page of, all right, well, you need to do these things and these things are on these pages. It's the kind of thing that you could, can knock up, but it feels like a missed opportunity. But actually you can create pretty, I haven't sat there and tried to make different ships, but you have got, the fact you've got these different years, different scales, you can put your system points how you want, you get your department points, your weapons, and then you go into like, there's this idea of refits, which means you can change things from the original. Then you've got your mission profiles and talent. There's a lot of different things you could do with a ship. And we do get a bunch of mission profiles. And then we do get loads of different weapons. And we get a bunch of different talents as well, which can make the ships, like even 2 ships were really similar, different talents, which are mostly different systems. So it's like where you got, the regenerative hull, siphoning shields. Mostly they're different tech systems, but those are really cool.
I just counted, I just checked. There are a total of 35 pages. So 35 pages of the book are the ship creation, small craft, and space station creation, and then all the different lists of mission profiles, weapons, talents, other things, all the different pieces and parts that you would want to put into one of those. That's 35 pages. That's a lot. I mean, that's you're right that the what they call the ship creation rules themselves only a couple of pages, but all the different all the goods that you need to do it, there's a lot of information.
So now your question is, this is a 264-page book, and we're on page 92. What's the rest of the book filled up with? It's filled up loads of ships. But I've already got the ships. So what they do, and I thought this was awesome. And again, I didn't notice this initially because I was looking on a tablet, so I was only getting a single page at a time. And then eventually realized what they were doing is that on each page they give you an overview of like the standard version of the ship. So let's jump all the way hell and fine. I know something I know. The Constitution. There we go. I know what a Constitution is. So on the left-hand side, we get the basics of the space frame, your bog standard Constitution ship, which, you know, we get the launch year for that. So you can work from that. You get stuff about like your base, where it came from, overview, stuff about the refits capabilities. And then on the second page, you get a notable starship where they've taken the space stream and now they've added on a mission profile and they've chosen talents and they've added on the weapons.
And some story.
And I think that's then really cool because these notable starships, okay, they're the ones we know, but it's showing the difference between your bog standard, you know, the basic space stream, and then what you do with that space frame. And then they have these for all of these. And I just really like that. Now, you know, you could look and think, oh, well, I don't really need these. Well, you don't need them, but it is showing how the system works. And it's more than just, at least they haven't just given us the ships from the previous books. They've gone, here's the basic version of the previous books, and here's the famous version.
I like
the cool version. I really liked it.
And the ships are organized in chronological order by era. So on page 93, you have a breakdown. It shows all the ships, and then it breaks them down by century, like 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and the early 25th, and then small craft and space stations. I really like how they did, and this is 110 pages, 111 pages. It's almost half the book. And there are ships that you see in other books. Okay, it's not like everything in here is new, but there are new ships. I really love the fact that you get this nice spread with a graphic of the ship. So you have a nice picture of the ship, even if it's an ugly ship, you have a picture of it. And you have the story and fluff and stats for it as class. And then you have this, you know, this notable ship. And the neat thing about the notable ship is that, the Enterprise is there. Duh. There are ships that you will have heard of from different episodes and things like that. But there's also stuff in there that maybe it's from an episode I missed, or it's something that they just made up. I don't know. But looking through that and seeing all the ships, like that'd be kind of a cool thing to add some fluff. Oh yeah, Captain such and such of the USS blaga blaga blaga. You know, and then you've already got this background and this story that makes this ship noteworthy. You know, you could establish that, and then a few episodes later have that ship lost or destroyed or something like that, and you don't have to make up a lot of the stuff. You just get inspired by it. So I think that is that's a knock it out of the park moment for this book. I think that really gives it a lot of value.
I mean, because for me, I thought it's going to be all about the ship making stuff.
Yeah.
And the ship making stuff is actually cool. And I would love to sit there and make ships with it. But then when I got to this section, I was like, this section it's so well done. It's just, it's well laid out. It looks good. It's got some good information. It's got good guys. It's even got things like the naming conventions for each of the different ships, which, there's so much good stuff in it.
The book isn't the ship construction manual of FASA fame from 40 years ago. It's about starships and things that are immediately attached to starships, their operations, like their operations as ships and their operations as communities and units internally, and also as machines, but really as characters. That's an aspect of this book too. I mean, we know that starships are like characters in these shows, and they do a nice job of presenting them as this really central part of the Star Trek vibe, which I really dig that. You're right. The game mastering section, it's all right. It's got some other ideas.
It's nice to see some more of those things you always go on about that I forgot. Mission briefs.
Yeah, it has a collection of mission briefs that are all very ship focused, and I like that. I like that. Look, I think the mission briefs, again, I think they're brilliant because it's a one-page adventure, and we all know how Star Trek feels. There's so much information in all these books. It's so easy to create things on the fly or dig back into the book and just grab something. and you've got a couple of sessions from one page, which is really handy. What were you just oohing and eyeing at?
The Odyssey class is a scale 7, so that's bigger than anything else I think in the game, and that's what the Enterprise F is. So I was just like, that's a hefty beast.
Not as big as a Borg cube.
That's a bigger. Well, no, Borg cubes are just stupidly big, aren't they?
Yeah,
They're like a city, really.
Yeah,
they're more like, I mean, really, Borg cubes I think are space stations. I was just thinking whether you can take these rules and make ships for other.
good.
You know, the other people, the other.
That's a good point to make. This is all the default is all Federation. It's all Starfleet.
Yeah, but I think under weapons they have. I guess go the way around. I'm sure they have some of the stuff.
They talk about disruptors.
Yeah, that's what I'm going back. It's a really long chapter to go back through. We have an awful lot of kind of mines and torpedoes, energy. Yeah, so there are disruptors in there. So
I don't see why not.
I don't see any reason you couldn't take this, and you know, it has cloaking devices. I can't see any reason why you couldn't take these rules and make up the other stuff.
Yeah,
you probably could.
Well, you know, in the Klingon rule book, they have there's information in there about Klingon ships. There's nothing for the Romulans, but yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, it's nice to have the book with the, you know, the official cover saying it's for the Klingons, but really behind the scenes, it's just a bunch of numbers. So just say those numbers represent that thing, give it the talents that make sense. The nice thing about this book is that it has a ton of ship talents in it and all these different weapons. And so tweaking those, either using them and reskinning them or using them for inspiration to make them something different. Yeah, you could make ships for anything.
I've just noticed on the page, I haven't to fall across at the end of the weapons section. It has a section on the ship as a weapon. So if you want to ram people, and the warp core as a weapon, which there has been several cases throughout history. Well, like every other episode, like Next Generation, they seem to have used the warp core as a weapon. It's like it's just a standard thing, isn't it? Oh, we're struggling, warp core. Let's just launch that.
Yeah,
fine. Yeah, I was really impressed with this book. It's the kind of book that could read really dry, and I don't think it does. It could just be a list of ships and things to build, but it doesn't. It has a load of other interesting stuff on top of that, but not, you know, so much that you feel like it's fluff and it's wasting time. It does have a quote from Janeway at the start of one of the chapters, but I can't hold that against it. It's a really good book. Yeah, like I said, I've only got the PDF, so I probably need to get if I was going to play Star Trek, I would get the full book. At the moment, I'm not planning; it's not worth it. But
I like the fact that it has the mechanical side of things, and I mean mechanical in terms of the game, that represent the mechanical things that are the ship, but it doesn't forget that those things exist as part of the story. On the other hand, it's not all just presented as fuzzy-wuzzy story stuff. There's some mechanical crunch to it, and I like that. Again, I think that Modifius Systems they do a really nice job of connecting those two things cleanly, so you can have a game system, but you don't lose the story and the narrative. And yeah, this book is excellent. I think that we'll talk about the Discovery Guide some other day. For a show that I don't like at all, that's a very good book. There are some other books that they've put out that I've been like on, that I've been like so on, and then there are two books that I actually don't think are all that great, but this is definitely at the top of the heap. It's
good. That I'm slightly worried they are going to run out of things to do books on, because I mean, they're doing a Lower Decks book. To me, that's scraping the barrel. Like, I enjoy Lower Decks, but
well, who knows? I mean, but I'll throw this recommendation out there. If you want to run Star Trek Adventures, and especially if you're going to default to a Federation style game, you should get this book.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot like the rules in the initial book. You kind of like, you picked one of the standard ships and you did a bit of tweaking. This is much more involved than that.
Well, the nice thing about it is that you have all of those space frames that you could choose from and then take that standard route. Or if you're feeling, you know, creative, it has a system to create your own ship class entirely. So yeah, I want to be clear on that. It expands the options for the the already presented system of taking a stock ship and then customizing it, but it also provides you the option of building your own customized ship from nothing, and creating your own class of ship. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah.
All right.
2 thumbs up.
Two snaps up in a circle. Who can tell me what that comes from?
Oh, no idea.
What?
I have no idea what that's from.
Okay. Well, maybe some of our listeners know what 2 snaps up in a circle comes from. But that's what I'll give it. I will give this book 2 snaps up in a circle. Thank you so much for listening. You can visit our show's homepage at anchor.fm/fluffncrunch. That's FLUFFNCRUNCH. We would really appreciate feedback and reviews on whatever podcasting platform you're listening to this on. Thanks so much.